We all hear it, right? Multitasking is the ultimate superpower in our crazy, connected world. But what if that's completely wrong? What if the skill we're all so proud of is actually a myth? Let's get into it. So let me ask you a question, straight up. Are you a good multitasker? Come on, be honest. I bet most of you are nodding right now. Of course. We juggle emails and meetings, scroll our phones while watching TV. I mean, that's just how you survive, right? It feels like we're crushing it, being super efficient. Okay, pump the brakes on that thought for a second. Because the actual science, it tells a completely different story. Get this. Research shows that trying to do a bunch of things at once can tank your productivity by as much as 40%. 40. That's not a tiny dip, that's a huge chunk of your day just gone.
So yeah, let's dive right in. This is all about the multitasking myth. We're going to really dig into whether this thing we call a superpower is actually a weakness.
Okay, so first things first, we gotta be clear on what we're even talking about. Our brains, they're not like computers with multiple cores that can run complex programs at the same time. True multitasking, it's basically impossible for us. What we think is multitasking is really something called task switching. We're not doing two things at once, we're just ping-ponging our focus back and forth really, really fast. And here's the kicker. Every single time you switch, every ping and every pong, there's a price to pay. It's called a cognitive cost. Think about it. Your brain has to stop what it's doing, reorient, and then fire up for the new task. It's not a clean switch, it burns mental energy, and it takes time, and pretty soon you've overloaded the system. Our brains only have so much bandwidth, you know? So what's really going on up there when we're trying to do everything at once? Let's take a look at the science, because it's pretty fascinating. All right, so to figure this out, some brilliant researchers at Stanford got to work. They basically sorted people into two camps. On one side, you have the heavy media multitaskers. We'll call them HMMs. These are the folks who are always juggling multiple screens, multiple feeds, you name it. On the other side, light media multitaskers, or LMMs. These are the people who tend to do one thing at a time. Then they put both groups through a series of brainy tests. For instance, they'd flash an image on a screen with a mix of red and blue rectangles. The instruction was simple. Pay attention to the red ones, remember how they're positioned, and just completely ignore the blue ones. It's a classic test to see how well you can focus and filter out noise.
So, who do you think won? The heavy multitaskers, the pros who do this all day long, or the light multitaskers, the single taskers? Well, the results are probably not what you're thinking.
Wow, okay, this graph says it all. The red line, that's our heavy multitaskers. The blue line is the light multitaskers. And look at that, the red line is consistently lower. The HMMs performed worse. They just couldn't hold as much information in their head. But here's the part that's just wild. They even did worse when there was nothing to distract them. Their so-called superpower wasn't just useless, it seemed like they were actually worse at focusing, period. And it doesn't stop there. When scientists looked at their brains, they found actual physical differences. The heavy multitaskers had less gray matter density in a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, which is like mission control for focus and cognitive control. It's almost like the constant switching isn't just a bad habit, it's actively training your brain to be bad at deep focus, reinforcing those circuits for quick, shallow thinking instead. So this isn't just about how well you can answer an email while on a call. This habit of overloading our brain has a serious long-term cost, and it hits our memory hard.
Right. Think of your working memory as your brain's temporary scratch pad. It's where you jot things down before you decide to file them away in long-term memory. If that scratch pad is messy and overloaded, what are the chances that info gets filed correctly? Pretty slim, right? And that's exactly what the Stanford study found. The people who were bad at the working memory tests were also bad at remembering things later on. It's a direct link.
And this chart just slams the point home. See that red line again? That's our heavy multitaskers. When the researchers asked them later what they remembered from the test, they were worse at remembering everything. Not just the red rectangles they were supposed to focus on, but even the blue ones they were supposed to ignore. It's like their brain's camera was just out of focus for the entire experience.
So what's the takeaway for you and me? It's simple. Trying to learn while you're distracted is a terrible idea. If you're studying for an exam, but also checking your texts, the memories you're forming are, well, they're flimsy, they're weaker, they're less detailed, and when you need to actually use that information later, it's going to be a lot harder to pull it out.
Okay, but this raises a huge question, right?
If the heavy multitaskers are so bad at it, why on earth do they do it so much? And this is where things get really weird. It's all about the illusion of efficiency.
I mean, this quote from the study just nails it. The people who are the worst at multitasking are the ones who think they're the best at it. It's a complete disconnect. They feel like they've mastered this amazing skill, but when you actually test them, they perform poorly every single time.
And this chart really just visualizes that gap. Perception, through the roof. Reality, down in the basement. It's not just that they're bad at juggling tasks. They're also bad at judging their own performance. It's a concept called metacognition, basically thinking about your own thinking. And for heavy multitaskers, that self-awareness seems to be way off.
Okay, so the evidence is pretty damning, right? Multitasking is not the answer. But here's the good news. You are not doomed to be distracted forever. You can totally fight back. So let's talk about some real, practical ways you can start reclaiming your focus.
The big idea here is something called digital hygiene, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You know, you brush your teeth to keep them healthy. Well, digital hygiene is about setting up healthy habits for your brain in our tech-filled world. It's about you being in charge of your devices, not the other way around.
So how do you do it? Simple stuff, really. Number 1, create distraction-free zones. Seriously, if you need to focus, just put your phone in another room. Out of sight, out of mind. Number 2, try time blocking. Carve out chunks of your day where you do nothing but one important task. No emails, no notifications. And number 3, just embrace doing one thing at a time. Pick a task, start it, and finish it. I know it might feel weirdly slow at first, but trust me, your brain will thank you for it.
You know, we started this whole thing by asking if multitasking was a superpower. But after all this, I think we were asking the wrong question. In a world that is screaming for our attention 24/7, maybe the real superpower isn't juggling a million things at once. Maybe the true superpower is the ability to just deeply focus on one. What do you think?